What's up guys, Scott here from Icon Vehicle Dynamics again, and we're out in the shop again today playing around with the Delta Joint Pro on these upper control arms. And we've talked at length about how awesome the Delta Joint Pro is and the advantages over our standard Delta joint, a uniball, or even your standard old factory ball joint. And the biggest difference there is how they're rebuildable while the arms are still installed on the truck. And today we're going to show you exactly how that works, show you how easy it is to do, so when that day comes when your ball joints finally wear out, you can freshen them up, make your control arms just like new again. Today we're working on a 2025 GMC 2500 HD AT4, but this same procedure is going to apply to all makes and models, as well as our billet aluminum version of the upper control arms. The same procedure is going to apply with a slight exception for how this dust cover is removed, but that's super easy. We'll show you how all that works in just a second. Before we get started and tear everything apart, I want to show you exactly what's required from a parts and tool standpoint before you get into it and realize you're missing something. Tool-wise, you're going to need a basic setup of ratchets, sockets, screwdrivers, a torque wrench is handy. Also having some blue Loctite on hand so we can put it all back together and make sure it stays together is nice, and a big hammer. Now, as far as the specialty tools go, it's going to come down to the Icon Delta Joint Pro cap socket, as well as this bolt. This is all available from Icon as a toolkit. And then the wearable items would be your upper and lower races, the scraper seal, and the preload ring. And this is all available from Icon as a rebuild kit and is very modestly priced for the cost of the complete Delta Joint Pro, and is a totally worthwhile upgrade to just have a set on hand for the eventual day when you may need them. So the first step, once you have the truck up on jack stands or a lift as we have here, is to loosen the taper nut on the bottom of the spindle. That can be done with an 18mm wrench. And we just want to loosen it. We don't want to completely remove it from the ball stud here. And that is to help protect the threads, because we are going to use our big hammer to break the taper free of the spindle and get it all out. And by leaving the nut installed partially on the threads here, it helps protect the threads and the bottom of the ball stud just in case you miss with your hammer. So next, once you have your nut loose here, we want to break the ball stud taper away from the spindle. And you can use a ball joint puller. Several different tools are available for that. I've always preferred to use a big hammer. And with this, you have to be a little bit careful. You don't want to swing and hit your upper arm or anything down below. You want to hit it squarely on the spindle here. And the idea is the shock of that impact is going to jar that taper free, so it'll just pop right out of the spindle. Just like that. So the next step, once your ball stud taper is broken free of the spindle, is to slide the upper arm and that taper out of the spindle and secure this so it doesn't want to flop around on you. Again, a couple different ways that can be done. You need a floor jack or something similar, but in this case, we're just gonna loosen the nut the rest of the way and remove it. Pop this guy up and out, like so. And then so we don't damage CVs or anything else, I'm gonna tie her off here. Just find something good on the chassis to secure it to, and that's all it really takes. Okay, so once the spindle is secured, the next step is to start disassembling the Delta Joint Pro. And on the tubular versions of the arms, the first step is to remove your dust cover, which is easily done with a flathead screwdriver. You just get up underneath it here and pry her free of that adhesive ring. I usually prefer to go through and clean all this up so that we can reattach it if desired. This is consumed, so there's no point in trying to save it. Just scrape it all off, get in there with some, rubbing alcohol or Goo Gone or some similar product to get rid of all the adhesives, so you've got a nice clean surface here to reattach to once you're all done. So we got it cleaned up for the most part. We're gonna hit it again once we get the Delta Pro actually disassembled. It'll be a little easier to clean up in here. But the next step is to remove the cap. And to do that, you're gonna use the Icon Delta Joint Pro cap socket tool and your ratchet. Pop that guy on there. And then the 4 tabs on the socket will locate down onto the slots on the top of the Delta Joint Pro cap. Then you just loosen her up just like any other normal socket. And this just threads out like so. So once your cap is loose, thread off the rest of the way, and you can remove your upper race by hand in most cases. Sometimes they're a little stubborn, and if that's the case, like this one, we'll just leave it back in there. Using an 8mm socket, remove your zerk fitting from the top of the delta joint. Remove that guy, and using the provided bolt with our toolkit, you can thread that in, and it will force the upper race out. Just like so. And now you have your preload O-ring and your worn upper race. The cap will be reused. These are now trash. Once your cap and the upper guts are removed, the next step is to remove your ball stud, which easily just lifts right out of the Delta Pro like so. This will be reused, assuming that it is not worn or damaged. Typically, while this could be considered a wearable item, in most cases, they don't really wear. Most of the wear is going to happen on the races, and this can be reused. But these are available separately should you need one. Just come and see us at iconvehicledynamics.com. So your next step, once you have the ball stud out, is to remove the lower race. And I've done it a couple different ways on brand new or less worn units. They just pop easily in and out by hand. This guy's a little bit worn, so it's a little stuck in there. So we're gonna use your flathead screwdriver and your hammer, move the arm up here, and we're gonna tap the race out with your tools. So we got our pop free. I'm gonna maneuver the rest of it out here by hand. And race is out. Along with your scraper seal, all that just comes out by hand. So at this point, we'll get in there with some Scotch-Brite, clean up any of this rust so our new parts go back together real nice. So next, once she's cleaned, you want to get some of your grease that you use to grease your delta joints with. We always recommend a Moly extreme pressure grease or molybdenum, however you say that word. Go to your brush and get a good coating on the inside here. That'll help that rust from coming back in the future and make all the parts slide together real nice. Once it's all greased up, it's time to start dropping new parts back in. We have our brand new brass scraper seal, as well as our brand new lower race. Your scraper seal just drops in first, right on the bottom. You can see here how it sits down there. And then your lower race with the flat side here facing downward. I'm gonna drop that right into place. Kind of wiggle it in. So we've got the race in most of the way. I'm gonna use our ball stud here to help pull it through, make sure it's seated all the way. Give her a couple good pulls there, nice and seated. What I like to do at this point is to give her a good, healthy coating of grease on the inside. These are fully greasable through the zerk fitting up on top, but let's not work harder than we have to. Let's give her a decent little coating, and then we'll top it all off with grease to the zerk once we're done. Once you've got grease applied to the Delta Joint Pro, you want to take the cap that we removed very early on in this procedure and start to slide it together with your new upper race and your new preload O-ring. And what I like to do is pop the O-ring right on top of the upper race and then just slide them together, trying to keep it vertical like that so that the O-ring sits flush up inside the gland and your race sits nice and flush with the bottom of the cap once you're done. Once you have your cap sub-assembled here, you want to pull out your blue thread locker and apply just a little bit on the threads here. The idea is so that this stays put once it's torqued into position and never comes loose. Keeping it all together, go ahead and thread her back in. We use our Delta Joint Pro cap socket that we used to remove the cap earlier to reinstall. Let's go ahead and tighten it up until she's snug. And then we're gonna switch out for our torque wrench. Set it to 100 foot-pounds and go ahead and tighten a cap down to spec. Just like so. Once it's all torqued into place, retrieve your Zerk fitting that you removed earlier to get the cap apart and snug that back up into position using your 8mm socket. Don't want to go crazy on this because there's not a whole lot of thread there. You just want to snug it up so it's not going to come loose on you. And essentially your Delta Joint Pro is now rebuilt. Now we're going to reverse the process, reinstall the taper stud back into the spindle, and tighten it all back up. And that's all there really is to it. We just rebuilt your Delta Joint Pro without removing the arm from the truck with simple hand tools you can find in a garage, making this a very easily done at home procedure. No need to realign the truck or any pressing required as you would normally see with most traditional ball joints or even our standard Delta joint. So all that's left to do, set the truck back on the ground, make sure you hit them with some grease through your Zerk fittings once you're back at ride height, and reinstall your dust covers. To see more cool videos like this on tech and all the other cool stuff that Icon has to offer, make sure you click subscribe below, follow on for more. Check out iconvehicledynamics.com, and we'll see you next time.